Our former US Secretary of State Colin Powell has died of COVID-19 related complications. He was also suffering from a form of cancer. He was 84 years old. The first black US Secretary of State was key in defining US foreign policy during the Reagan and Bush administrations. Let's speak now to our Washington correspondent, Jagruti Dave. Jagruti, thank you so much for joining us. What is Washington saying on the news of the death of America's first African-American Secretary of State?
Yeah, well, as you can imagine, the tributes are pouring in. We've heard from the current US President, Joe Biden, who has called him a patriot of unmatched honor and dignity. The current US Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, gave a speech where he said that he inspired such loyalty, and he knew his people who worked for him knew that Colin Powell had their backs, that his people would walk through walls for him. But he also said, Anthony Blinken also said that Colin Powell could admit mistakes, and it was just another example of his integrity. Of course, he was referring there to the Iraq War, that incident which really has cast a shadow over Colin Powell's illustrious career, where he made the case for the Iraq War going before the UN with intelligence about supposed weapons of mass destruction that was later proven to be faulty. He resigned after this, and he called that incident a blot on his career in an interview. But despite that, he has his wealth of foreign policy experience, and was favoured by so many presidents. He won the Presidential Medal of Honor twice. He was a Presidential Medal of Freedom, I beg your pardon, twice he was a recipient. You've got George Bush, who said in a statement that Powell was a great public servant, and Lloyd Austin, the first black US Defense Secretary, said he was a tremendous personal friend and mentor to me, and there's a hole in my heart right now as I think about his loss.
Yeah, so you made reference to what led to his resignation and that weapons of mass destruction claim to the UN. But this is a man who was so popular that many thought that he could go all the way to the top and become America's first African-American president. That was probably, late 90s. Talk to us about his achievements, the things that he is going to be remembered for and always held in high esteem.
Yeah, I think his career in the military is something most certainly that he is going to be remembered for, even before he entered politics. And he was the first black national security advisor during the end of the Ronald Reagan presidency. He was the first black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was a retired four-star general. As I mentioned, he was twice awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So those are just some of his accolades. And I think a lot of presidents talk about how he broke down so many of those racial barriers in the military, in politics. The first black person to achieve so much in the United States in high office. So I think those are the sorts of things he's going to be remembered for. His integrity is something that a lot of people have talked about, his ability to admit mistakes, but also his I think he described himself not as an idealist, not as a sort of an ideologue, but as a problem solver, and a sort of a person whose work was tinged with the realism of getting down to the nitty-gritty and getting the job done. So I think those are the sorts of things that he is going to be really remembered for. And I think from the tributes we've been hearing today, the personal loyalty that he inspired. And remember, after he retired from public service, he really worked to, behind the scenes. He endorsed Barack Obama when he was running to become the first black US president. He was a vocal critic, ended up being a very vocal critic of US President Donald Trump and the trajectory of the Republican Party under his tenure. And he, endorsed Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump as well for president. So I think he is viewed as a principled man, and clearly somebody who was incredibly popular and will be very much missed here in Washington.
Tell us a little bit more about what the family is saying around his death. We know that he died of COVID-19 complications, but also that he was suffering from a form of cancer. But his family also making the point that he died of COVID complications even though fully vaccinated.
Yes, so he had received cancer treatment, his family said in a statement, and his immune system was clearly weakened by that treatment. And now he was fully vaccinated, but of course, people who are immunocompromised are more susceptible to COVID-19, and so therefore I think that's some of the background to the causes of his passing. We don't have too much information about it. Clearly, I think the focus is on remembering Colin Powell and remembering his achievements, and his family writing about his passing, and he was clearly somebody who's going to be missed, and he, as I say, tributes have been pouring in throughout the day just to mark his achievements here in Washington.
All right, well, thank you very much. Our Washington correspondent, Jagruti Dave there.